Hello and welcome to the Science of B2B. I'm Kerry Cunningham, and I head up research and thought leadership here at Sixth Sense. We're going to be talking about the research today, but today is still really focused on BDR and SDR roles. So if you're not a BDR or SDR, I'd love to have you here. But if you work with BDRs and SDRs, we'd love you to get them to see this episode as well, and particularly BDR, SDR leaders, because we're going to talk about what we need to do to rethink that role a little bit. And don't worry, I'm not going to say that we need to get rid of them. And by the way, I spent nearly 17 years of my career working in and running a B2B teleservices organization. So I love and respect the function, but we got to do things a little bit differently now because of what we know about the buying journey. So what do we know about the buying journey? Now, those of you who have seen episodes of the Science of B2B before have probably been exposed to this. We'll just cover it for a couple of minutes, but it's important that everybody understands this background. So in the summer of 23, we surveyed 936 buyers in B2B, people who've been involved in an enterprise purchase of one kind or another. And we asked them a bunch of questions about their process. First question, when did you have your first live interaction with a vendor representative, BDR, SDR, sales rep, whatever it might have been? The answer, 70% of the way through the buying process. So you may have heard a number like this before. This validates other people's research, including my former company's research. So buyers don't talk to you till the very end of their journey, or pretty close to the last part of their journey. So why is that? Well, to get at that, one of the things we wanted to know is who decides when that happens? And so we asked buyers, did you initiate that first contact with vendors, or was your first contact driven by phone calls or emails you're getting? The answer very clearly is that buyers say that they drive that first interaction, that first interaction happens because they initiate that contact. Now, maybe it's because they're not getting the attention that we think they're probably getting from BDRs or sales reps. What happens if that first interaction was not initiated by the buyer? When does that happen? It happens at 70% also. So the fact that they answered your email or phone call, or they initiated the contact themselves, does not change when it happens. What that tells us is that even if they are responding to you, they're doing that because they were literally just about to call you or email you or fill out your form and say, contact me. All right. So the next thing we asked was, this is really, really important. When you started engaging with vendors, did you start with the eventual winner, or did you start with one of the non-winners? Here, this is a pretty staggering number. I mean, I've probably talked about this number 1,000 times at least over the last 6 or 7 months, and it still staggers me to see it. 84% of the time, buyers say that they begin their live interactions with the vendor that ultimately wins the business. So there's two possible explanations for this. You'll find that we don't care much for the first one. So one possible explanation is that buyers go through 8 months of what is a typical 11-month buying process. They get to 70%, right around 8 months. They haven't talked to vendors yet, but they decide, okay, now it's time to talk to vendors. They pick one randomly from the list, and that first conversation is so compelling that they buy from that vendor 84% of the time. That's one explanation. Another explanation is that buyers take 70% of their buying process, 8 months of an 11-month buying process, to come to a consensus as a team about what it is that they want, which vendors are the best possible providers of what they want, and then to put a vendor on the top of that list. And just like we do with any considered purchase, whether it's a car or house or whatever it is, when we go to do those evaluations, we start with the one we actually want to buy. And that's what buying teams are telling us. All right, so we know that buyers are not going to talk to us until they're ready. And unfortunately, ready means that they kind of already decided who they want to buy from. So does that mean that we're hopeless? And does it mean that BDRs and SDRs are wasting their time? No, it absolutely doesn't. But it does mean that the way we've been doing it is not the right way. If what we've been doing is following up on leads, first things first, it's very likely that a lead that you get from an organization that is in market, you're getting that lead probably early in that buying journey. Probably not in week 1 or week 2, but certainly they're not going to show up on your website for the first time 6 or 7 or 8 months through their buying journey. They're going to show up much earlier than that. And if you have a lead scoring process, they're probably somebody from that organization is going to ring the bell on your MQL process long before the 70% mark. So if you're following up on those leads and you're doing 15 touches or something like we usually do, what's going to happen? You're going to run through your sequence long before they're ready to talk. And if you do something like a breakup email that is so common these days, that's going to be really weird for the buyer. You're saying, I've sent you a bunch of emails, I called you a bunch of times, you obviously are not into me. But the truth is, they're in the middle of their evaluation process and just not ready to talk to you yet. So please, don't send breakup emails. And understand that those folks that you're reaching out to, they're either, one, not in a buying process, and that's the most likely scenario for most of your leads. Or if they are, it's probably pretty early in that process. But what you need to be doing instead is thinking about how you're going to enable those buyers. And so think about it this way. Here's a depiction of the typical B2B buying process. These are the stages that we use and we think about. There may be different models, but that doesn't really matter very much. What matters is we know that buying processes have a beginning and an end. We know that most B2B organizations are not in a buying process for whatever it is that you sell most of the time, right? Just makes sense. Most organizations are not in market for what you sell most of the time. In fact, probably somewhere between 5 and 10% of accounts are in market for the kind of thing that you sell. And that's just within your ideal customer profile segment. Right? So most are not. The rest are somewhere along this continuum from awareness all the way through up making a purchase decision. Now, what we need to do is we need to be able to see which organizations are somewhere in the buying journey. Ideally, we need to be able to see where they are in the buying journey, and we need to start working those accounts. So here's what I recommend. 2 things. 1, if you get anybody along the way who says, contact me now, do that. Don't hesitate and don't worry about where the account is. Absolutely do that right away and put your best foot forward. It's very likely that that account has already decided that you're on a short list for their evaluation. Now, you don't know whether they're on the top of the short list or whether you're on the bottom of the short list, but you can ask. Were we the first ones that you contacted? And that's going to be a pretty good clue to where you stand with respect to that prospect. But more importantly, when you get leads, most of those leads are not yet going to be, especially if these are leads that just somebody filled out a form because they had to see your content, they looked at a bunch of stuff on your website, they scored up to become an MQL. If they haven't asked to talk to you yet, chances are they're earlier than that 70% mark and probably not ready to talk to you. So what do? Well, you don't give up and you don't sit back and just hope and wait. You contact them or you attempt to contact them. You email them, you call them, you use social media to get in touch with them. But instead of leading with, can I get a meeting and can I get a demo, which we're probably not going to do, what you lead with is how you can help them in their buying journey. Understand, what content have they looked at? If they've looked at that content, what are they missing? What haven't they seen yet? What questions might they have that you could answer? What resources do you have that they might benefit from having? Do you know anything else about that account or any other people in that organization? Might you be able to connect them? Might you be able to connect them with customers, with online communities, with other resources that will help them in their buying process? That's what we need to be focused on. That's what, if you're a BDR, SDR, your role really needs to become, is the enabler of your buyers, helping them make their buying journey easier and faster to get to the answer that's going to be good for their organization. Now, talking to you, the BDR, SDR, and you're saying, I get measured on leads. Okay, we're working on that. And if you're an SDR, BDR leader, let's talk about that because getting paid for meetings is fine, but you're not going to get them most of the time from your leads. And it's not because you're not doing your job, and it's not because the leads are not good leads. It's because the accounts are not in market. Now, it is possible to know where accounts are in their process. That is what 6 Sense does for a living, and I do work for 6 Sense. So that's the way that it works. But we need to understand where those organizations are in market and make sure that we're enabling the people in those accounts with right kind of intelligence that they need to help make their buying decision. And when we do that, we're going to be much better positioned to be on the top of the list when they do decide to actually talk to us. All right, everybody, I hope that's helpful. I'd love to hear from you. If you've got comments, how about, what if, look me up on LinkedIn or ping me at 6 Sense. Thanks, everybody.